All right. Thank you, Norman. It's great to be with you guys again. How many of you guys have heard of Massachusetts Family Institute? A lot of you. Okay, great. So we are the local associate of Focus on the Family, and this is why we do what we do, right? Family. This is an updated photo of my family. I brought two of my boys. We have 4 boys and 1 girl in the middle named Daisy. So Jesse, Levi, who you guys know, and then Judah and Ezra, and then Daisy, and then my lovely wife Ashley, and myself. So we have an Old Testament tribe in New Hampshire. So is family worth fighting for? Yeah. Amen. So this is our shared mission with you, dedicated to strengthening the family and the Judeo-Christian values upon which the family is based. There's 40 different institutes in the United States like MFI. So did you guys know there's an institute in New Hampshire? For those of you that are in New Hampshire, you guys know that? Does anyone know what it's called? It's called Cornerstone. Okay, so if you live in New Hampshire, you want to check out Cornerstone. If you're interested in the sanctity of life, religious liberty, parental rights, what they're teaching kids regarding sex education in public schools. Do you guys care about that stuff? Okay, then you're going to want to check out and support your local Family Policy Alliance. As I mentioned, we partnered with Focus on the Family. Have you guys heard of Alliance Defending Freedom? Yes. So you guys heard of Jack Phillips, the baker in Colorado, right? That just won his case last summer. Okay, then he was sued again to bake a transgender cake, right? And then he won that case, and then he was sued a 3rd time, right? So they don't give up, as you know. But Alliance Defending Freedom is protecting your religious liberty. You guys know the Christian flag case, right? There's another national organization called Liberty Council that is supporting Mr. Shurtleff on that. And then also, if you guys have heard of the Family Research Council, anybody heard of Tony Perkins? Okay, so that's kind of a national organization on a federal level. They do the same thing we do on a state level, okay? So you want to be familiar with all these different organizations. So here's our 3-prong mission: the sanctity of life, the definition of marriage, and religious liberty. Have you guys ever heard people say that Christians should not be involved in politics? Has anyone ever heard that question? You can raise your hand if you have, right? Okay. Well, we always point to James 1:27. You guys know what the definition of religion is according to the half-brother of Jesus? It's to care for the orphan, to care for the widow, and to keep yourself from being polluted by this world. And I would also say to keep your neighbor from being polluted by this world as well. Do you guys think that today's sex education, the whole LGBTQ agenda, do you think that's polluting the minds of young kids? Do you think that's something that we should care about as Christians? Not just in our own homes, but also our neighbors' homes, right? Do you think that commercial marijuana is contaminating young minds today? Okay, through the edibles. You guys know that over half the sale of commercial marijuana in Colorado is sold as edibles, right? So that's something we should be concerned about as well. Do you think, how do we take care of the orphan if the orphan never had a chance to make it out of mom's womb? Right. Did you ever think about it that way? That you have a responsibility to care for the orphan, not just adopt and foster, that you should really take seriously as an adult, but also that you should care for that orphan that has a chance to make it out of mom's womb. With the widow, you guys know right now we're dealing with the assisted suicide bill in Massachusetts, right? That we're making suicide legal in Massachusetts, right? There's a bill to do that. Well, does the physician-assisted suicide bill affect our elderly? Oh, yeah. Do you think there might be like an heir that might say, you know what, you can pay $1 in your copay to end your life, and then I, as your heir, can take the money that I've been waiting for? Do you think that might actually happen? Do you think that could cause a slippery slope? You know, a lot of today our elderly, they take where it's legal for physician-assisted suicide, the main reason they take their life is because they feel like they're a burden on their family. Do we want that to be the norm in Massachusetts or the state that you live? So should Christians be involved in politics? I would say a resounding yes. Well, this year, we've had a lot of victories this year in Massachusetts, and it's been a direct result of the church outreach that we've done in Massachusetts. Last year, we had about 150 people show up to our annual lobby day at the State House. You know how many people we had this year? Over 500, right? And we filled, you can see, if you can see this picture on the left here, this is Park Street Church. You guys know where Park Street Church is in downtown Boston? We filled Park Street Church with our advocates. And we went all up to the State House, and I'm going to show you here a video if I can get it to work here, of that day. That was a great day. People from all over the state, over 500 people from every single demographic you can imagine. Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, Ugandan, Hispanic, English speaking, all showed up at the State House. That's an amazing story, right? That happened this year, where over 500 people that care about these issues came down to the State House in Massachusetts. Okay, I'm not mincing words here. Massachusetts had over 500 people come down to their State House. So we can do the same thing in your state, and I think all the states represented at Camp Constitution have a family policy alliance. All right, so let's talk a little bit about religious liberty. You guys know this story, right? Yeah. You recognize the two individuals here. One of them might actually be in here. Is Nathan in here? There he is in the back. Okay. So, wonderful story about religious liberty, protecting the Christian flag. You guys might have seen the Fox News article, and also many other articles as well. So we'll follow that closely. And you guys probably heard Mr. Shurtleff say, while permitting 284 other flags, they've declined the Christian flag. All right, would you guys like to see a Bible club started in every high school and middle school in not just Massachusetts, but your state? That'd be pretty cool, right? So we've been able to start several clubs this year, and I'm going to introduce you to Rosa. She's a 17-year-old student in the city of Lynn, Massachusetts. You guys know where Lynn, Massachusetts is at all? Okay. Very liberal city, but she wanted to start a Bible club at her school. She was discriminated against. Her principal said, tear down your posters because they have Bible verses on them. She called us. We sent a kind letter to the principal, and would you know, the next day, she got her Bible club started. Okay? And here's a little video we did of Rosa. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit of it. If I can find my cursor.
Hi, my name is Rosa Ciano, and I go to a public school here in Massachusetts. I remember 3 years ago, students in my high school wanted to open a Bible club. There was a lot of persecution, and they decided to give up. This year, I decided to do the Bible club. There was a lot of persecution, and honestly, I didn't know what to do. Our main goal in the Bible club is about speaking to others about the love of Jesus. They didn't want us to meet in a regular classroom as a regular club. We were putting posters, and they said that we have to take it out. But after Massachusetts Family Institute helped me through this process, we have our teachers supervise us. We have our own classroom that we can share. We can bring our guest speakers, and it's really an awesome experience. I'm so thankful that here in America we have the freedom of religion. Many students, they forget about that, and it's really important to us to remember that we have the freedom of speech to speak about our religion in school, about Christianity, and they don't have to be afraid. The law is gonna cover them. They don't have to be afraid to speak up. They don't have to be afraid about talking to Jesus in school. Massachusetts Family Institute is a great organization that helps students and people that are being discriminated because of their religion.
Amen.
It's a great story, right? So that story gets even better. So Rosa, they started their Bible club, and wouldn't you know, they like to sing worship songs at their Bible club, right? So the whole club decided they were going to sing a worship song for their talent show this year, right? This upcoming spring. You think the school would let them sing a worship song at the talent show? Well, they did, and they not only sang it, they won first place.
Come on.
Isn't that an amazing story, right? And I'm going to show you, I'm going to try and show you here them singing that song. You guys know that song? Yeah? So that's the song they sang for their talent show. That's pretty cool, right? That's happening in your local public school in Lynn, Massachusetts. They're pretty good singers, right? It's awesome. So if you're in Massachusetts and you want to start a Bible club, come let us know. You can see some of the other cities that we've gotten a club started in. Lincoln Sudbury High School. So Lincoln Sudbury had the most sign-ups of any club in their school for their Bible club, right? So who in here might want to start a Bible club this fall? I know a lot of us are homeschooled, so that kind of hurts us a little bit. One of the downfalls of homeschooling, but there's many good things about it. We homeschool our kids as well. So anyway, would love to get more Bible clubs started. There is is Norman in here? Okay, did you guys get these free to speak pamphlets? Did you guys get these? Okay. So these explain your constitutional right to have a Bible club. So don't let anyone tell you. So if you have friends, how many of us have friends in the public school? Okay? All right, give this to one of your friends and have them start a club. And then have them call us, even if you're in a different state, still have them call us, because we will get them in touch with the right people. All right, just give me a second here, because I am having difficulty finding my cursor. Does anyone see my cursor? Oh, there it is. I finally found it. All right. Also, I don't know if you guys have cell phones. I'm sure you do, but you can text the word Bible to the number 797979 for more information on that. All right. Have you guys heard of the counseling ban? All right, so last year when I spoke, we defeated the counseling ban. This would basically tell therapists that if you want to help a boy feel comfortable as a boy, you would lose your license, okay? So we thought this was unconstitutional. Here's the individual, I think I showed you this picture last year, Sam Brinton, who's traveling across the nation trying to get states to adopt this law. Now, Sam Brinton, you can see the interesting choice of shoes Sam is wearing. He's the son of a Baptist preacher.
Lord.
Right? Amen to that, right? Well, he's been successful in 16 states passing this law. And would you know, in Massachusetts, we just passed this law this year. New Hampshire, how many of us live in New Hampshire? You guys passed this a year ago, before Massachusetts did, okay? Thankfully, my colleague Andrew at MFI, he said, you know what, Mike, I will buy you a dinner at a steakhouse if you can find me a therapist that will sue the state of Massachusetts. So we were able to find a therapist that'll be a plaintiff in a suit to sue the state of Massachusetts. He said, I'll buy you a 3-course meal if you can find a minor child who's gone through conversion therapy that'd be willing to sue the state of Massachusetts. Well, you know, a week later we found a minor child, a homeschool student actually, that's gone through conversion therapy and actually appreciated it, okay, to feel comfortable in their anatomical skin. So this fight is far from over. We now have a therapist and a student that are willing to sue the state of Massachusetts, and you might see this case at the Supreme Court in the next year. So the work that we do in needing an advocate in every state is so important, because you guys don't even know many times that these laws are on the books, and many students that are struggling. You know, there's a lot of students that struggle with gender identity today, right? And they would have nowhere to go right? They'd have no therapist to speak to that would say, you know what, God made you fearfully and wonderfully, or Genesis 1:27, he made you male and female. You would not have that opportunity with a professionally licensed therapist if you weren't having people advocating to make sure these laws become unconstitutional. All right, the Sanctity of Life. How many of you guys know that we're dealing with an infanticide bill in Massachusetts? Okay. If you guys are from New York, you just passed an infanticide bill, right? Your governor lit the Empire State Building up in pink, celebrating the fact that we can now abort babies when they are crowning. Okay? This is horrible, right? They want to legalize infanticide in Massachusetts. Well, we got our advocates together, and here's a picture at the State House, and you can see that's a sea of red, right? And we dominated that day at the State House. We had more people show up for life than Planned Parenthood did at the Massachusetts State House. That's a victory, right? All right, and so you definitely can clap for that. So over 700 people showing up at the State House to support life. We were down at the march this year. It was the largest March for Life ever. As students, you guys should go down there. I took my son Jesse. 650,000 people down in D.C. to support life. Every single life is precious. So many pictures down there, some young ladies down there as well. So many young people down at the March for Life. So consider doing the March for Life this year as well. So you guys heard what went on in Virginia with the Virginia governor who said that if the abortion is botched and the baby lives, that will help the baby feel comfortable while mom and doctor make a decision if they want to resuscitate the baby. Is that how we should be living and caring for life in Massachusetts? Right? Well, fortunately in Virginia this didn't fly, but in Massachusetts, I want to show you I'm going to give you a 2-minute video here that is a back and forth between a legislator and the vice president of the Mass Medical Society and an abortion doctor from Worcester, okay? I want you to hear the back and forth on this debate about infanticide.
I'm curious too, with regard to your positioning, you're representing the Massachusetts Medical Society here?
I am.
You are, okay. I'm curious as to the reasoning why Massachusetts Medical Society is supporting the removal of Section 12P with regard to the fact that if a baby, despite the abortion, is born alive, you presently give medical treatment to that baby, all resources available, and that is being taken out in the Roe Act. And that is something the Mass Medical is very comfortable with?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that particular section that you're alluding to.
Okay, so Section 12P is the section in our existing law.
Yes.
And under that existing law, it says that they are to, in keeping with good medical practice, consistent with the procedure being used to preserve the life and health of the aborted child, such steps shall include the presence of life-supporting equipment as defined by the Department of Public Health in the room where the abortion is performed. You don't agree with that?
We agree. We would like to see the terminology brought into modern lexicon. And I don't believe modern terminology would talk about an aborted child. It's a fetus.
Well, no, ma'am, it's actually being taken out of our existing law. That is our existing law. And I'm just asking you if Mass Medical Society believes that's a good idea.
So this part that is taken out is not preventing life-saving treatment from being done to a newborn. What this does is it allows the next steps in medical care to be made between a physician and the patient that they're taking care of. So if they determine that life-saving medical treatment is needed, they have full capacity to do that. But if it is a newborn that has a lethal fetal anomaly, they also have the option of providing comfort care or palliative care.
Where does it say that?
It doesn't. It's taking out the section so that physicians have the ability to use their medical expertise and ethical obligations to provide the appropriate treatment.
But it doesn't say that in the Roe Act. No.
The goal is to take out language that ties the hands of physicians and makes medical decisions for the physician.
So you're saying that you don't want to, if the baby is born alive, you don't want to be forced into doing what you could to keep it
So
alive?
first of all, I've never been in that situation. I don't think that actually happens in medical
Oh, I
care.
think it happens. I think it happens. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Can you believe that? Did you guys hear what was going on there? So basically the doctor's saying we don't want any kind of legal accountability if that baby's born alive. If we want to let that baby die, then that's got to be okay, and we don't want to be charged for that. That's crazy. And that happened in Massachusetts 2 months ago. That's why you need an advocate in your state to understand what is going on regarding the sanctity of life. I want to show you another video here of the Catholics for Choice. Do you guys know, those of you that are Catholic, did you know there's a Catholics for Choice organization? Okay. I mean, even in the Protestant evangelical world, okay, there's too many people that are for choice on this issue. But they, again, I'm losing my cursor, but basically it's another video of them. So basically, I'll tell you what they said. They came down to this hearing and they said 6 out of 10 Catholics believe that are pro-choice. Now, would you as Catholics believe that?
No.
Right? 6 out of 10 in Massachusetts are pro-choice. And they use buzzwords like conscience, as in terms of giving a theological justification. So the Lord allows us to have conscience. The Lord allows us to have free will. And getting at the word choice, right? That the Lord would want you to have choice, right? You have a choice whether you want to lie or not, right? Well, you also have choice whether you want to murder or not. But we have a law against murdering. But for some reason, when that baby's still in the womb, and now actually out of the womb, we've taken away that law. So very, very concerning stuff. And something, again, that I hope you guys will get involved with your particular institute in your state. See if we can. My wife, how many of you guys met my wife? Okay, she did a spoken word on this issue, and I'd love to get to it. Would you guys like to see it?
Yeah.
If I could just... Here we go. Oh, okay, hold on. Here we go. All right, so she did something called Don't Stop the Beat. And we hope that you guys will share this on your social media.
You can take away life and existence, your very own child with a clear conscience, and it won't affect you in the distance. But that baby is a human with intrinsic value and potential. You'll never run from that decision, even if, in the present, it's confidential. That life is worth more than you know, with fingerprints and toes on its feet, a soul with a direction, heart resilient. So I beg you, please, don't stop the beat. Let it be on and let it grow up. Let it dance. Let it continue to thrive. Let it take on the world, run the race. This child was created to be alive. Some legislators want to play God, like they have credentials because they're influential. They can pass a bill on Capitol Hill and suddenly it's okay to kill. They don't stop there. They light up buildings, clap, laugh, and cheer to celebrate the ripping of innocent babies from the womb. Pure evil at this rate is hard to navigate. It's ironic, popular protests and outrage to protect the earth and fight for rights. Save the trees and save the bees, but what about babies' rights? Join that fight. I want to speak gently, but this isn't gentle, especially for your sweet little baby. I want to stop and walk away when I think about the reality. It horrifies me. They'll tell you that the procedure is easy, but it's actually sickening and insane. Let's start with your precious baby, who has a nervous system that feels pain. It's curled up peacefully inside its mom, waiting for its chance and joy will bring. When sharp tools stab its little head, your baby's horribly ripped limb from limb. Then they scrape at what they call tissue, but it's actually tiny arms and legs. The doctors don't care that it's a human. They literally get paid to deliver your child dead. Enemies of God, the wicked come to steal, kill, and destroy. Stand and be the mother defender. Don't let deception steal your joy. Access strength through God, who sent his only Son to make a way. Put your trust in him and follow faithfully each day. Through Jesus, receive life. Then protect life for your little one, who he created before it was in the womb. Shelter the miracle that's begun. Throw off a poisonous notion that murder is a choice. It's a twisted fabrication. Let this child have a voice. My daughter came from another mother who chose life instead of death. The option of adoption is a blessing that cannot be expressed. This life's worth more than you know, with fingerprints and toes on its feet. A soul with a direction, heart resilient. So I beg you, please, don't stop the beat. Let it be on and let it grow up. Let it dance, let it continue to thrive. Let it take on the world, run the race. This child was created to be alive.
Amen.
What's the web reference for that?
I can send it to you. It's on YouTube. It's called Don't Stop the Beat. If you look up Ashley King. So how many of you guys can share that, right? You can share that on your social media. You guys think that was effective at all? So that's a message that needs to be told to our culture for sure. There's many creative ways to do that. So we're also dealing on the life side, not just on the birth, but also at the end of life with assisted suicide. And currently at our Massachusetts State House, we're dealing with the Infanticide bill, the suicide bill, and the sex ed mandate. All of those are up for a vote this fall. And so last year we defeated assisted suicide. This year it's back. And again, I want to show you another video of a lady from California that came to testify at the assisted suicide hearing. And you'll see the reason why I put $1.20 copay up on the screen.
Is that just the insurance company saying that we're no longer going to provide that care?
Yeah. And then, so I called them to find out what's going on. I said, well, what is this big now? And of course, she said, doctors, I can treatment, I can just tell you to cover it. And so some people, what about this drug? Suicide stuff. Put me on hold, came back, and she said, that is something that we covered for you, but you have to pay a copay. So, well, what's my copay? $1.20. Good. Yeah, super awesome. So they won't pay for chemo or stem cell infusion, but it's proven to significantly.
Yeah.
But for a buck, my kids can hold hands, sing kumbaya, and kill me at the same time.
So, if you guys heard, I don't know if you heard all of that, but here's this lady struggling with cancer, right? And she's looking for chemotherapy and different ways to take care of her cancer. She's got 4 kids at home. And they say, you know what, the chemo for you is a little too expensive. So she says, well, what if I got those assisted suicide drugs? They say, oh, we can actually pay for those. She says, what's my copay? $1.20. So for $1.20, she can kill herself. But it's too expensive to help her stay alive. So this is where Norman, can you just turn that down, that TV down? For some reason it works better. Just use this. For some reason it works better than here, I don't know why. So this is the danger with assisted suicide. You know that the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And this is really what it is that you are now too expensive to care for, right? And it's much easier that you take the same pill they give someone on death row. That's a lot less expensive. So let's go down that road as opposed to, supporting life, right? I wear my father's wedding ring today. I've been wearing it since he passed away 2 months ago. And he just died from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which he struggled with for 15 years. But 15 years ago, he was given 6 months to live. And this is the law, that if you're given 6 months to live, that you could qualify for assisted suicide. Well, obviously, my father lived more than 6 months. And we always say that doctors don't make great deities, right? Doctors don't always know how long you're going to live. So if my father wanted to qualify, he could have taken those drugs, but he would have missed the birth of every single grandchild that he has today. And he has 12. So the Lord gave him 15 years to see his grandchildren be born once he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I remember going down to New Jersey at the time when he was sick, and Jesse was just born. And we if you've seen Lion King, we couldn't go into the hospital, so we held Jesse up. So my dad could see him from his window, and he had that amazing experience 12 more times. So we want to support life, in every state. Amen? Is that a resounding amen?
Amen.
All right, there you go. All right, so thankfully you're in homeschool, so you don't have to deal with this. But for those of you that are in public school, this is something you definitely want to be aware of. So you know who controls the sex education in our public schools? If you said Planned Parenthood, you'd be right. All right, so we actually bought the curriculum from Planned Parenthood and the props that come with it, and since this is a rated G environment, I would in no way show you what Planned Parenthood sent us for those classes, okay? But I'll tell you, it's extremely bothering, and we should all be concerned about this. Here's a picture of the Worcester School Committee, or the City Council room where the school committee was meeting. This was on February 7, 2019. I spoke for 3 minutes at this meeting. Worcester wanted to adopt Planned Parenthood, at least the leaders did, and a lot of the people were upset. They didn't want Planned Parenthood messing around with their sex education. So we came in and we basically just read. I read for 3 minutes straight from the Planned Parenthood sex education curriculum from the 6th grade, okay, from the 6th grade. And the topic was redefining abstinence. And I'll tell you, I read 50 different examples of abstinence, and none of those would qualify as abstinence, right? You could have heard a pin drop while I was speaking, because people were like, couldn't believe I was saying the things, and I would never say them to you right now because your parents would kill me, right? But this is being taught to kids younger than you, okay? And again, why would Planned Parenthood want to be into sex education? Because don't they want pregnancies, right? So why would they want to keep people from getting pregnant? Does that make sense? Well, they actually want kids to be pregnant, right? So they come in the disguise of saying, well, we're going to preach abstinence, and of course they redefine it so that now you have all these unwanted pregnancies. Is that word ever in the Bible, unwanted pregnancy? No. Kids are always actually referred to as what? Blessings in the Bible, right? Blessings. Did you see the VP of the Mass Medical Society? And her answer, she said to the legislator, she said, no, these aren't babies. We want this wording changed to fetus, right? Scary stuff. But we were victorious in Worcester, and Planned Parenthood was kicked out. So that's good. That's good news, right? And that can happen. Now, if you're in the public school, you'll see this curriculum. I think I showed it last year. This is called the Gender-Bred Person. Have you guys seen this before? Okay. You can Google this if you don't believe me. But this is how they're teaching gender in the public school. So your gender comes from your brain and has nothing to do with your anatomy. You'll see a line coming from the brain, which is, of course, in the colors. And then you'll see that's completely separate from your anatomy. So your anatomy, according to your school, has nothing to do with your biology. Or your gender has nothing to do with your body. Now, does that make sense to anyone? No. But if you sit in a room, psychologically, if you sit in a room with 10 other people and you say 2 plus 2 is 5, and 9 people say that's correct, you know what that one person might actually say? Maybe 2 plus 2 is 5. That's kind of how our psyche works. This is, what grade do you think this is taught in? Preschool. Preschool, right? And not only do you see the unicorn, you see 5 different spectrums in which a 4-year-old can identify. Here's the high school curriculum, and at the top it says, our sexuality and gender identity are not set in stone. Stop. In fact, people's identities can be fluid. Stop. The spectrum can help you visualize how you feel at any given time, mark how you identify today on each line, but don't feel limited. It's okay to mark something different tomorrow. Okay? And then you have 5 different spectrums. So let's take a quick look at this. Biological sex, what the doctor assigned you at birth. So, Reverend Kraft, were you assigned your gender at birth?
The doctor's a liar. God assigned me everybody else.
Right? So you have the spectrum, male to female. And if you go on Facebook today, you know how many genders you can choose from on Facebook today?
Okay.
Over 50. Over 50, right? All right? So you have 50 different spots on that spectrum to identify. Now look, go down one, let's go down to gender presentation, the 4th line. How the world sees you. Okay, when I was 12 years old, I was still talking like this, right? And I was singing in the soprano section of the choir. And I thought it was the coolest thing because I had all the girls surrounding me, right? But today, if you're a tomboy, watch out. If you're singing in the soprano section as a boy, watch out. Because it could be suggested to you that maybe you're not as male as you thought you were. You know, you think this might be crazy. We're dealing with a couple up in the North Shore in Massachusetts. Their 15-year-old daughter, homeschooled, was in a drama club, and it was suggested to her at the drama club that she might not be a girl. And so then she thought she was a boy, and she became suicidal. And then Department of Children and Families got involved and took her out of the home because they were a Catholic family that said, no, you're a girl. Then DCF called the priest of their church and said, how do you define transgenderism? I'm not making this up. This is happening, okay? And so they took her out of the phone. We had to get in touch with them and give them an attorney so that they get their child back. Okay? This is the 1984. This is the craziness that we're dealing with. And as we as Christians don't take a stand for your neighbor, because it might not be happening in your, I doubt it's happening in your home, but we need to care about other people's homes as well. Amen? Here's the newest musical coming to a school near you. It's called Pronoun. This is in the Wayland Public School System. Pronoun by Evan Placey, rated PG-13. I would think worse than that. Synopsis: Joss and Isabella are childhood sweethearts. They were meant to spend their gap year together. They are meant to be together forever. But Isabella has now become a boy. A love story about transition, testosterone, and James Dean. Evan Placey's Pronoun is a play about a transgender teenager exploring the impact on friends and family of an individual's decision to undergo gender transition. But think about that though. You as a student at Wayland High School, you go see this play. Does that become a little more normal to you when you start seeing your peers acting this out? Right? Crazy. But we can change this stuff. This was a recent story out of Alabama. You guys might have heard of the cartoon Arthur. Recently, Alabama banned this episode. Okay, so we can take a stand. I'm meeting with a bunch of pastors in Lawrence, Massachusetts, August 14th. And we're going to go over a strategy on how in Lawrence we can change the sex ed curriculum in the city of Lawrence by using the local church. And I'm going to tell you more about that as I get more into this presentation. Commercial marijuana. This will be the last one I touch here. So commercial marijuana. 351 towns and cities in Massachusetts. We legalized this 2 years ago. Now 250 have either passed a moratorium or completely banned commercial marijuana in Massachusetts. That's not bad, right? Out of 351? Come on, give it up. That's pretty good, right? All right. And here's just some pictures of some of the churches we've been working with. This was on a Thursday night. About 100 Hispanic people came out to fight this in Waltham, Massachusetts. We actually crashed a meeting that was teaching people how to open up a pot shop in Waltham. So this is 100 Hispanic friends of ours that just walked in unannounced to this meeting. It was quite something. This was 125 of our Hispanic friends in Waltham showing up at the city council. Okay, have you ever been to a city council meeting where there were over 100 people? Right? It's pretty good. This is really the shining light of Massachusetts. This is the city of Lawrence, where over 200 people showed up at the city council to protest marijuana. I took this picture at 11:30 at night. They convinced their city council unanimously 8-0 to ban commercial marijuana. Pretty good, right? That the local church can have this kind of effect. There were so many people that showed up that night. This is the Overflow Room. And this is the city council. You can see many of them have their hands on their cheeks because they're so tired of hearing so many testimonies from pastors about what the Bible has to say about commercial marijuana. Have you guys ever heard a good sermon on commercial marijuana? Right? I got one for you. Invite me to your church and I'll give you one. But an amazing story. Real quick, marijuana. So over 50% of the sale of marijuana is sold as edibles. How many of us have ever had a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup or Almond Joy? Okay, that's how it's sold to kids. Okay, you see at the bottom right-hand corner, that's USBs, but disguising the marijuana. So you could bring a USB to school, but it's really a vape. Okay? This is how insidious the industry is. You guys ever been to Starbucks or McDonald's? There's more Starbucks and there's more pot shops in Colorado than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. 850,000 people voted no on question 3. You guys remember question 3, the bathroom law in Massachusetts? Okay, Lawrence was the only city to vote no in the majority on question 3. Out of 351 towns and cities, Lawrence was the only city to vote no, to protect the privacy and safety of women in public accommodations like bathrooms. How many girls in here want a man walking into your stall when you're going to the bathroom at Target? Okay, makes sense to me too, right? Well, I'm going to show you a video here of the pastors in Lawrence, and I hope it's an encouragement to you that what the church can do in a city or a town in a state.
Being labeled as bigots.
We tried desperately to get churches to allow our volunteers to collect signatures, and often were met with resistance based on fear of man. You love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul.
People often say to me, where do you see the church in 10 years with everything that's going on? It's very simple. You're the church, and it completely depends on you.
The problem is not education, the problem is not poverty, the problem is not race, the problem is the breakdown of moral values in American life. This is what is really at stake. The redefinition of what it means to be created in God's image, male and female.
So I am an American.
There were only 5 towns and 1 city in Massachusetts that voted no on question 3. And that one city was the city of Lawrence. We believe that the city of Lawrence voted no because of the involvement of the local church.
Ya que son muchas iglesias, como usted dijo, alrededor de más de 100 iglesias.
Nosotros como anglicanos y como católicos entendemos que también tenemos que ser lo mismo. Entonces unidos está la fuerza. Por eso nosotros creemos que realmente se hizo un buen papel, porque todos de alguna manera lo hicimos a través de las redes sociales, lo hicimos interactuando con diferentes iglesias, y creo que Amedal hizo un papel bastante importante para que esta pregunta pudiéramos votar en contra.
Nosotros decidimos no, y también
motivamos nuestra comunidad a votar que no, debido a precisamente los principios establecidos en la palabra de Dios. Varón y hembra, Dios hizo hombre y mujer, los unió para así sustentar lo que es la familia. La familia se sustenta bajo los principios de hombre y mujer.
Damos gracias a Dios por la información que nosotros recibimos de parte de ustedes, y eso nos ayudó bastante a que las personas pudieran entender claramente lo importante que era votar a la pregunta 3, que no.
We are so encouraged by the example of these heroic, courageous pastors in Lawrence to take on their city regarding commercialization of marijuana, now regarding voting no on a question that had to do with not just the definition of gender, but also privacy and safety and public accommodations. And we're excited to continue this partnership as we move forward. Pretty soon, Lawrence is going to be the first city to change the sex education curriculum in their public school to a curriculum that values marriage and a curriculum that values the real definition of abstinence. It's pretty cool, right? You know, Lawrence has 85,000 people that live in it, and the church, you know, there's over 100 Hispanic churches just in Lawrence. Okay, let me repeat that. Over 100 churches just in one city. They make up 5,000 people that live in that city. About 5% of the city is the Hispanic church. That 5% is changing that city. You know, in the Revolutionary War, what percent was it of the colonialists that took up arms? You guys know? 10%. I've heard 3 to 6, but okay, less than 10%. Okay? Is that a lot? No, it's always David and Goliath. It's Gideon's army. It's small numbers. I mean, you see it today on the opposite, right? It's the you know, on the LGBTQ spectrum, that's a minority, but they're having such an effect, right? But in Massachusetts, there's almost 8,000 churches in the Commonwealth. So we are not an unchurched state, but we just need to use our voice, and more we're using our voice. So I hope you're encouraged by this. These are still the public accommodations under the bathroom law. Churches are not on that list anymore because 4 heroic pastors stood up and sued the Attorney General 2 years ago with our help. And the Attorney General didn't even take us to court because she knew that churches could not be public accommodations, so that your priest or pastor should be able to say to a man that goes into your daughter's bathroom, hey, you got to use the other facility if you're going to be at church. Right? So churches are no longer public accommodations. And this is just what I was talking about, 3%. 3% showing up make a difference. You know, this is a bunch of pastors and advocates showing up at the State House and praying right outside the House of Representatives. Martin Luther King Jr. said the church must be reminded that it is not the master or the servant of the state, but rather the conscience of the state. It must be the guide and the critic of the state and never its tool. If the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. Amen? You're not a social club, right? You're not a cruise ship. You are a battleship, right? And we need to take a stand for life and liberty. And if your priest or your pastor won't talk about these issues, you as a young person, we're told, Paul tells us in 1 Timothy, you set the example. You as a young person set the example in character and purity. So go and ask if you can talk about these things, even in your youth group or whatever group you're a part of. The Engage the Bay State curriculum, you can find out more information at our desk. This is a curriculum we put together for churches. Hugely effective and helpful to understand more about what I'm talking about. Lead a class at your church. And then 2 more quick things. You guys know the Boston Globe is very liberal, right? So we've created the New Boston Post. And if you want to support conservative stories, that an organization will actually get those out, $20 a year will support the New Boston Post. And lastly, this is what we're up against in Massachusetts. The anti-life, LGBTQ, anti-religious liberty budget is $21 million just in our state. So our budget is about $500,000. So if you want to support what MFI does, consider doing that as well. But I hope you guys were encouraged today that you can make a difference. And if you live in Massachusetts especially, let me know if there's a chance to speak at your church. If you want to support what we do, obviously, help us out. That'd be fantastic. And if you live in New York, New Hampshire, and Connecticut, there is a Family Policy Alliance in your state. Come see me, and I'll get you connected to them. Thanks so much.